I thought the takeaway from the day, and I missed your opening segment because I was leaving the building, was Jeff Albert had the opportunity to come back to be the hitting coach for the St. Louis Cardinals, and basically said he was tired of the criticism and he's going to take his bat and go home.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder, like, what that does job security or his future jobs, in that you were a part of the Houston Astros scandal and now you're leaving a job because you didn't want to be criticized. I mean, this is the big leagues. I wonder how easy it's going to be for him to get a job. Maybe he gets one right away, but that doesn't seem like a great thing on the resume.
Yeah, I agree. And, this is a guy who many in the media and the fan base have been questioning, since he got here, the authenticity of what his teaching was. And I guess late last year, there was an offensive surge, and out of the gates, the Cardinals certainly had a pretty decent offensive year this season until the final month and a half, and then they powered down in the postseason. But I'm with you. I mean, if a guy can't handle outside criticism and he's a hitting coach, how in the world can he fight through the adversity of in-game changes or in-season changes with a player? He just doesn't really seem fit for office, if you know what I mean. There's a few of them.
Yeah, that's a good point. And let's not forget, when they went on that 17-game win streak last year, it was Mike Schilt kind of taking over and saying, no, we're going to strike out a little bit less, so we're going to do things my way. And that's what happened, and that's why I think the reason they've had success. So we'll see what happens with Jeff.
Do you think the organization goes outside to go with a new hitting coach or Turner Ward? What was your feeling there from Mo?
Well, all I know about Turner Ward is he is Paul Goldschmidt's guy, and he's also really well respected. I would think if you were at that job and you were pretty good at it, and the people that are really important to the organization really like you, you should get first crack. So we'll see what happens. I'd be offended if I was him and I didn't get the job. It's unbelievable. They got 4 openings now to fill. They've never had a situation like this, I don't think, without a managerial change where they have 4 openings. So we'll see. The other takeaway I took from this press conference was Tyler O'Neill and what they do next there. John Mozeliak admitted that they are going to have to change his offseason game plan. And Bob and I have talked about it. Andy Van Slyke has. That, hey, you're just going to have to maybe have less muscle. You're going to have to become more Dan O'Neill-like and less Arnold Schwarzenegger-like to play 162 games.
And you mentioned those who have talked about it. The most important voice that's been on this station and on your show talking about it is Rick Lehman.
Absolutely. And I don't know what it is. Is it like you have to pull a Whitey Herzog and get more fat because you can't pull fat? But he's going to have to change. He's had one healthy season in his big league career.
Yep.
But I still think he's your only guy in the organization that's capable of hitting 34 home runs in the outfield right now.
We just realized that Dan doesn't even have headphones on in the studio, so he couldn't even hear the shot that he just took.
He missed that drive-by
from
that he
you.
took
Yeah,
real quick.
He's getting ripped, one for the power outage yesterday at the station, and now for being not like Tyler O'Neill's physique. It's a tough sled to hoe.
Well, maybe Tyler needs to pull up on a barbecue place, going a little different way. I don't know.
Did you compliment my fitness, Frank? Is that what you?
Yes.
I didn't hear it.
I've always thought you were an apostle of fitness. Dan.
Yes. Thank you.
The inclination on Arenado, did you get the sense that it's just a formality? What's the timeline there?
Well, I always thought it was a formality, and if I had to bet right now, I'd still bet that he's coming back. But it is a little troubling. I mean, that it's been a while since the season ended, and he seemingly loved this place, and he said some unbelievable things, right after the season. I remember I asked him a question. I go, you can opt out, you can opt in. He goes, well, I think the fans love me, maybe not after this performance, but I love playing here. So I'm just wondering why there is any delay at all. You got a chance to make $35 million a year and play in front of 40,000 and throw the ball over to Paul Goldschmidt. I don't know why there would be any hesitation at this point.
I think Nolan's probably, how baseball is about how when the news comes out and whatnot, I think they want to avoid another happening like the A-Rod thing. Not that he's going anywhere, but just more or less to say, hey, let us get some news after our big piece of the pie is out the way.
You're probably right.
All right, Frank, we'll let you eat some barbecue and do your thing, but great reporting as always. And big, I mean, it's a wild day. An organization that won 93 games just added multiple new question marks to their offseason.
All right, guys, I'll talk to you soon. Thanks so much.
You're my
Thank
guy,
you.
Frank.
Thanks, Frank.
Frank Kusama. I mean, think about it, though. So you go into the offseason, you already don't know what your catcher situation looks like. You've got a huge question mark at shortstop. You don't really have a definitive center fielder. So your 3 spots up the middle are all major question marks. You don't have an ace, and now you just lost your bench coach, your pitching coach, and your hitting coach. Sounds like great.
Yeah, I don't really see it that way myself. I think you'd look at the Cardinals more as 2 years out because of the top prospects that they have coming with Walker and Mason Wynn.
Wynn.
So he's, it projects to be your shortstop and a really good one. And Walker projects to be a really good outfielder or third baseman or wherever he plays, utility guy or whatever. But, and you have to keep in mind, Dylan Carlson's season was a wash, I thought. He was sick early in the year, and then he got hurt, and he just never got it going. And O'Neill was hurt. I'm a little concerned about O'Neill just kind of perennially being hurt. It's hard to say. And the catching, I think they need a veteran catcher. I don't know that they're going to go out and give somebody $20-25 million a year to be their catcher, because I don't think that they're that upset or disappointed with what they have. I thought Kinzer, he had a tough first half, but I thought he came on and looked pretty decent. And they could use a veteran guy to go with him. I mean, you'd like to have somebody with experience, whether he's going to be your regular everyday guy or whether he's going to be a backup catcher. But I don't see them, honestly, I'll be surprised if they do anything big during the winter. I mean, their pitching staff, whether you like it or not, they'll have Flaherty, they'll have Michaelis, they'll have Wainwright, they'll have the two, or at least one of the two guys they made trades for.
Montgomery for sure.
Yeah,
I mean, he's arbitration eligible.
And their bullpen's good, and I just don't see them doing a major thing. Like their shortstop position is in a little bit of a flux.
I disagree with both of you on that. Edmund showed that he can play big league shortstop.
If you wouldn't interrupt me, I may have to use my
if you
fitness.
hit the hole.
I'm giving you an overview. It's called an overview. So
people aren't going to do the jump cut to the next page.
But
you got to get them right away.
But what I think is that their middle infield is a situation where they have moving parts. So they're not going to have a regular shortstop maybe. Or maybe Edmund will be there. He showed he can handle the position fine. And he's a good player. And Donovan appears to be a good player. He can play second base. I like Gorman. I still think Gorman's going to be a good player. And so he's going to play some second base. So I just don't see them going out and making a big deal or signing a shortstop who needs to be the regular shortstop for the next few years.
Signing a shortstop long term right now would be a bad investment with Mason Wynn coming. I think you've got an option right there that's proven that can come along and that you've got an opportunity to develop there. But when I look at other positions, I think for me mainly when just the return that you got from Kisner and what you got from Herrera, there's no absolute answer there. It's just the fact of the matter is that you don't have – it's a risky place to spend a lot of money at unless you're going to be looking at, a Wilson Contreras or something of that nature. And that's one of those things I'd have to see it to believe it. But in the outfield, you got to get better. When you look at that series and you look at what you got back from your outfield in the postseason, which, fair or not, is going to pay an outsized portion of how you look at your team going forward, you got nothing. And Dylan Carlson's the only one, in my mind, that I would have future stock truly invested in coming back next year. I'd be open for business for anywhere else.
And what's odd about that, and I don't disagree with you, is that might be the group from which you could package somebody to trade and maybe get a veteran catcher.
Yeah.
Somebody with, a couple of outfielders and maybe on the 40-man and maybe somebody in the minor leagues, and you put it together, you've got a lot of, I don't want to say underachieving, but outfielders who haven't been doing it consistently. It's a big group when you think about it.
Could I interest you in a Dakota Hudson teaser as a part of a package this offseason?
We're listening.
Yeah, well, hey, there it is. What can you do? What can you figure out? If you've got a Hudson that's available, I'm not saying these are the people who's got to go. A Hudson, O'Neill's stock is going to be down because he's coming off of an injury. But how many things can you put together to get one thing? The Cardinals have a quantity issue. They have a quality issue, and they have a lot of quantity. That
Agreed.
hopefully they can turn into something.
Yeah. It's so hard to predict or try and work out trades. It's just there are too many variables. But I think you have some assets that could be traded and get you somebody. But I think the only place that they really will do it, if they do it, will be at catcher. I really do.
The one that I look at in the Cardinals that if you looked at somebody's name being included something and you're like, oh, would be Matthew Liberatore. It's very clear that Liberatore had stock and still has stock, but is it going to be here? Some of the things I hear is that the team isn't as high on him as maybe his number as a prospect says. So what can you get somebody else to be excited about so that you can get that final piece? And the Cardinals done a great job of consolidating minor league players and turning them into major leaguers over the last few years. I think that the NL Cy Young finalists are going to prove that in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I think that this fan base is going to get pretty unsettled if you had the influx of cash that they got from the ticket sales generated by Albert Pujols' amazing second half. And Mo did allude today that he does expect the payroll to increase. The Cardinals were 12th this year. But all these players that we're talking about,
they'll be 11th.
I hear a common denominator. He's fine. He's all right. He can't really stay healthy. I mean, at some point, you got to have all-stars or you got to have significant talent if you're going to be a legitimate player in the postseason because Cardinals,
Well,
it's just not good. They're just not good enough right now.
No,
so
they're
you got to
not.
get a lot better.
And that's what we're talking about, getting an everyday catcher, right? And I think Jordan Walker will have to fall on his face
Oh, boy.
in March to not be playing every day in the outfield by the middle of May.
Yeah, I agree with that completely.
And so then what do you do with the other spots? I agree with Dan. Dylan Carlson's a guy that he's going to be the center fielder, and they're going to go with him and count on his talent to come through and show him that, hey, you're the guy. Go get 500 at-bats. Then right field, I don't know. I've always been a Lars Nootbaar guy, but can he hit for average?
But
he does
I don't know.
everything else great.
Yeah, I like Nootbaar, and his on-base percentage,
It's
even with the lousy batting average,
It's good.
is pretty good.
Was it 340
So
this year?
can he improve that by 15 points?
Well, we've talked
That'd be
about
good enough.
We've talked about a lot of places that you got to get better at if we were thinking about the old school National League Cardinals. A place you can get better at in a hurry. Add a DH that's going to hit the ball over the fence a lot more often and solidify that fifth spot. I think last year you really walked into something with Albert. That's great. But the plan coming into the season was Albert and Dickerson. Well, go get a guy that can do that for you every day. And I don't even care if you bring a glove. Just bring somebody in that can do that every day, and then maybe give me an appetizer of an outfielder that might be able to hit at the top of the lineup. Because that's been a big problem.
I've got a solution for all of it. Move in the fences.
Well, Philly and Houston did it. Look at them.
Then you're for sure going to have Arenado back because I think the thing
He was frustrated.
He's frustrated by the ballpark. And then, then maybe Tyler O'Neill hits 75 home runs or something. And, you solve all those problems. Just move the fence in.
Can we move the foul,
Or eliminate the fence altogether, maybe. Be like the
playing on
border.
those little league teams where fields where there's no fence and
Yeah,
you just
be
hit
like
one
the
far-
border.
Yeah, it rolls.
Yeah. You just got to go chase it.
That's
Or
hilarious.
wrestle somebody in the bleachers to get it back.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Nothing worse when you show up to the ballpark and there's no outfield fence. You're like, wait, what?
And I got to play right field.
Where are we at? What's going on
Oh,
here?
that's brutal.
It's an all-inclusive area. You get to play, too. Let's market that.
But, the other thing is I know he didn't hit here, but he had a terrific year, was Burleson.
Yeah.
And I like his swing. He looks like he can hit to me. And I don't know what the deal is they bring these guys up there hitting 300 and Memphis or something, and then they hit 100 here.
Well, we tied that into. We talked about
and
that
that might
before he
have something
came
to do
on.
with the hitting coach or something. I don't know.
That was exactly the
Maybe
speculation.
that's why. Yeah, maybe that's why he's not back. But
So
anyway.
when you go through and you look at all the outfield candidates, outfield DH, and Matt, I like what you're saying about DH, but just knowing the Cardinals, if I'm going to put $20 down right now, it's Gorman Yepes sharing the DH.
Yeah,
Well,
wouldn't surprise me.
That's what I agree. I mean, you have to go by what their personality is.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I heard somebody talking the other day. I won't mention his name, but he just took a shot at me a little while ago. That they should get Mike Trout. I was just like, what are you talking? They're not going to get Mike Trout. They're not going to do that. And I find it hard to believe that they're going to give Wilson Contreras the amount of money in the contract that he wants, even if he would like to play here. I just don't think that's their mode of operation. And they've got a lot of possibilities in the outfield. And like we talked about, they have a couple guys coming up who look like can't miss. So I think you really got to look at their roster 2 years out more than just, well, what can we do for next year,
And
I could see a 3-year, roughly $55 million deal for Contreras. Give him max average annual value. Keep it short, knowing that you have hope with Herrera.
I agree both ways here because it would surprise me to see them spend big there at that position. It would stun me actually if they did. But I think that when you look at Contreras' market, you probably got a market you might be able to take advantage of too. One thing I definitely believe in is look at what a guy's interest was when you most recently got a chance to gauge it. And if the Cubs would have gotten a deal put on the table for Contreras that blew them away, he would not have had that very awkward, I guess you're actually going to be staying here instead of moving situation they had. So It makes me feel like it's not going to be the biggest market on earth for Contreras out there. So it's the type of thing you might be able to wait around that could come back to you. And if there's one thing that the Cardinals will do is that they'll wait for a market to come around and it gets to be January and they're like, okay, well, what do you think about now? But I don't expect for there to be too many big waves made by this team for the rest of 2022.
I think Mo will make a deal for a starting catcher, and we'll all go, to borrow from a previous regime, meh. And that's what'll happen.
And that's how we're going to improve on the payroll to get it from 12 to 11.
Yeah.
That's too bad.
Yes.
And Nate's head is going to explode like scanners.
No, because I think they're going to trade for Ohtani and Trout.
But
not just Trout.
They'll trade Dakota Hudson.
But remember what Mo's MO is, though. They'll get it kind of settled. They'll bring in a veteran catcher, and then they'll bring up Walker and see how he does. They'll see who wins the outfield positions and if they're doing well. And then by the middle of June, he'll point out the 2 or 3 things on the team that needs to be fixed. Between there and the end of July, he'll make an effort to fix it.
I think
that's what he always does.
I think the Cardinals need to look at whatever owner who has his pockets in the worst situation. And they traded their last Dakota Hudson, Austin Gomber, for Nolan Arenado and got a $50 million ticket to come back with it, too. Take advantage of somebody
Best deal
else.
of all time.
It's the biggest steal that I can recall in my lifetime for sure.
A real radical trade proposal that somebody sent me would be to dish Goldie. And I actually wouldn't be against it.
I don't believe in untouchables.
Yeah, because I think Goldie, he put together still a hell of a year. I mean,
Not
his
even
MVP,
Elliott Ness.
you could get a return
I totally
for
believed
Goldschmidt.
in Elliott Ness.
Yeah, he was real.
Yeah, but not the Kevin Costner one. See, I don't believe in that.
No,
at all.
not as good. No.
That was terrible.
He was not untouchable.
That was on the other night.
It was.
Good pass by view. Watched it for 10 minutes.
That's exactly what I did. It's pass by.
Moving Goldie, man.
What's the deal? I'll tell you tell me what the deal is.
I'm just saying, if you want to go out there and acquire either an ace pitcher or maybe it's a center fielder, it's just Goldie has trade value. All of these guys that we're talking about in terms of work up a deal for this, it's like stack slop on top of slop, which at one point was a decent segment on this radio station.
Here's the deal, you guys. Let's take a vote.
Yeah.
Goldschmidt for Tatis. Yes or no?
Oh, God. Yeah. Check, please.
Yes.
Okay.
Is he allowed to ride motorcycles?
Well, see, I just don't know if
Wait, Fernando Jr. or Senior? I don't care. You ain't going to catch
I don't
me.
care. Either one. I'll take either one.
Yeah, I think it's a package deal. You get them both.
They got to send the chemicals with them, though.
Well, yeah.
Or his dad.
At least
his
what's
dad.
already in
Yeah,
stock.
Yeah.
Wait, what's the STD he was fighting off, or what was he fighting off?
Ringworm?
Ringworm, yeah.
Oh.
Just in case
Anyway,
anybody gets
I
ringworm.
brought that up because you got to think who wants a first baseman or a DH, and what do they got big to give you back?
The Padres. That's solid. I probably would take that deal
And
for
they-
Tatis Jr.
And I bet you they would too.
because they've got the shortstop.
Yeah. The kid.
The guy.
Kim.
I forget his name.
Is it Kim?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't pronounce his name. I'm not sure.
Sung. What is that? The guy?
Swan Ho or Swang Ho? Yeah.
Korean.
Kim.
The Korean
Kim.
guy.
We know
Yeah,
who we're
yeah.
talking about.
He's a good player. He's the energy bunny, energizer
really
bunny
good.
for the Padres.